Joining us now here on the Adam Gold Show, it is the general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, Eric Tulsky, joining us. Eric, thanks so much for your time. Really do appreciate this. I know a lot of players are obviously into the offseason. They're trying to look to maybe take a vacation, take a little break, rest and relax a little bit. But this time for you, this is where things actually ramp up for you. How busy have things been already for you, even before the offseason started?
Yeah, this is the busiest time of year for me for sure. We've got drafts coming up and free agency and signing our own players to extensions. It's all busy right now. I'll get to sleep in August maybe, but until then, a lot to do.
Yeah, there's definitely is a lot to do, and you actually have some free agents of your own possibly coming up as well. How have negotiations been, and when do those conversations actually start taking place with players that you know are going to be unrestricted free agents? Is it something that you wait till after the season? Do those take place at any point during the year? How does that process work for you?
Yeah, so for our own players, we're talking now to players who will be free agents next summer. We want to get ahead of it whenever we can. Sometimes it makes sense for both sides to play it out and see where things go. And when that happens, we continue to check in throughout the year, see if there's anything to be done. Sometimes it gets done during the year. We saw some of them happen actually as we were getting into the start of the playoffs. And then when games finish, we circle back again and start trying to hammer things out before we hit the July 1st deadline.
Eric Tulsky, general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. Dennis Cox sitting in for Adam Gold. I asked you this yesterday during your exit interview with you and brind'amour about finding not just the right players, but the right people that fit into an organization. We all can look at counting stats. We all can look at numbers about what a player can bring on the ice. But what is the process for you in terms of figuring out who the person is and making sure that they are a person that fits well into the locker room, has the mentality that you want that fits into the locker room?
Yeah, so a lot of that comes down to contacts. We're talking to players who have played for us, who know the players because they played with them before. We're talking to coaches who have coached the player before or who are friends with people who have coached the player before. We're talking to, scouts who may have worked with the person when they were with their junior team. Anyone who knows the player, we're trying to talk to them and get their sense of what the player is like, not as a player, but as a person. And then we're working with our scouts and coaches to evaluate what they're like as a player. And we want to make sure both of those things fit.
How do you balance as well when you're looking at talent, when you're taking a look at a player that puts up great numbers in the regular season, but maybe the postseason numbers might not be there, or there's also the inverse of that? I know we talked about before you joined the show about game one tonight of the Stanley Cup final with the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers, and I look at a player like Sam Bennett, who, if you look at his regular season numbers, has only hit 50 points once in his career. But you look at what he does in the postseason, he puts up numbers in April, May, and June. How do you balance when it comes to approaching players, not just finding players who can put up numbers in the regular season, but players that might have the mentality for the playoffs that I'm going to put my stick on the ice, get to the blue paint on the offensive end. I know I'm going to get cross-checked and elbowed, but I'm going to go to those areas no matter what. I'm going to pay that price to try and get things done. How do you balance out the regular season production, but also that mentality that's going to pay off in May?
Yeah, honestly, our team plays a playoff style all year long. We play an aggressive, heavy game, and we expect people to grind along the walls and win those battles and compete and apply pressure. And so if someone's going to be a fit for our team, they're going to be a fit regular season and postseason just because of the way we play. So we're looking for people who are comfortable in that kind of high-pressure game and, giving their full intensity and going against someone who's giving their full intensity. And when we find that, we think that'll fit year-round for us.
A player that really has fit, by the way, it's Eric Tulsky, Carolina Hurricanes general manager, joining us. A player who really fits that mentality, and it really showed during the playoffs, is Logan Stankoven, a player that you got at the trade deadline from the Dallas Stars. He's going into the final year of his entry-level contract. Have you had conversations with him and his agent about an extension, or are you waiting till restricted free agency to see if you're going to do a bridge deal? Where's the process at with a player like him?
Yeah, so we have just started to have a conversation. He's not even eligible to sign an extension until July 1st. So we have a little bit of time, where right now we're feeling each other out and trying to get a read on whether this is something that we're likely to get traction on this summer. But yes, we've started to have that conversation, and we'll continue working on it throughout the summer and hopefully get something done this year. And if not, it'll get done next year.
Did he perform up to expectations or even exceed them?
Yeah, I mean, he was great for us, right? I don't know what more you could ask of him. You know, he's a rookie who's coming into a new team, and from day one just stepped in and fit and did everything we asked and did it well.
You have a couple other rookies that are going to be going into their final year of their entry-level contracts. Alexander Nikishin being one of them. It's amazing that he's considered a rookie, even though with all the years of professional experience with the KHL. But also Jackson Blake as well, going into a final year of an entry-level contract. Are you looking to possibly have extensions with these guys come July 1 when they're eligible to sign, or are you going to wait and see how everything goes with free agency before you decide to move? Because you do have that cost control with those guys over the next few years.
Yep. So, I mean, realistically, would be happy to have them all done on July 1st and not have to think twice about it. Right now, I think when they're a year away from their contract expiring, there isn't quite the time pressure to get it done on July 1st. And so the agents are busy with people whose contracts are expiring. And, so are we, frankly. And so I think right now the conversations sort of start, but the focus will really shift to them a week or 2 or 3 into July when there starts to be a little more bandwidth to really dig into what we can do with these guys.
Eric, I'm curious how much the conversation between you and Rod takes place when it comes to re-signing players or trying to find players that fit the personality of the team. How often are you guys having conversations about that in the off season, or even approaching possibly the trade deadline? How much dialogue is going on back and forth between not just you, but also Darren York with Tom Dundon, Rob brind'amour? How much dialogue is taking place with you all?
Yeah, I mean, we all talk all the time. It's I live on the phone basically. So we want to get the opinions of everyone and make sure we know where everyone stands and get as much information as we can before we make any decision. And that includes getting everybody involved. It involves making sure we understand not just what their opinion is, but why they have that opinion and what it's based on and how strongly they feel about it. And, really making sure we understand how everything fits together and how it'll work for us.
Eric Tulsky, Carolina Hurricanes general manager, joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. If you look at Florida, the team that's gotten to the Stanley Cup final 3 straight years, if you look down the middle of the ice, what they're able to do with Alexander Barkov, Sam Bennett, Anton Lundell, the depth that they have down the middle of the ice. And Rob brind'amour spoke with Adam Gold earlier this week about needing more from that position as a whole. Obviously, you have Sebastian Aho. We all know what he can do. We also know what Jordan Staal can do as well. How much of an emphasis are you putting on building the strength down the middle of the ice to match what the standard is right now, which is Florida?
Yeah, I mean, we want to get better across the board. And center is a very important position. D is a very important position. Our wingers are a strength for our team. I think anywhere where we find opportunity to improve, we're going to take it. Center is obviously a focus around the league right now, and something that if we see opportunities there, we will definitely jump on them. But we do not want to pigeonhole ourselves as being narrowly focused on one thing and missing other opportunities. We want to take every opportunity we can.
Final thing for you, Eric. Going into this offseason, we know everything that you have at your disposal in terms of cap space, draft capital, young prospects. If you want to make moves, everything is there. But how important is it for you all in the organization to be in a position where, look, we're one of the final 4 teams playing. You have a bunch of guys still under contract for next year, and you have all this cap space, but you still have room to grow in the future. How important is it to have that balance, but also that ability to make these moves in any way, shape, or form where you don't have to be 100% all in and the future is just completely mortgaged away, but you can still win now, but also still maybe win 2, 3, 4 years from now?
Yeah, I mean, our goal is to build a team that can compete year after year. We don't want to just be a one and done team and put all our eggs in one basket. That being said, we've built a team that I think is set up to be very good for a long time. At this point, the focus is we want to continue doing it sustainably, but we want to do whatever we need to do to get farther than we have so far. And that means starting to make some pushes to really bring in players who can get us ahead of where we've put ourselves in a great spot, and we want to keep trying to get ahead.
That's Canes general manager Eric Tulsky. One thing I want to tell you before I let you go, Eric, I just want to say I thought you did a pretty phenomenal job this year with putting together this roster that got to a Final Four with everything you had to do with players leaving in free agency last year. I know you couldn't afford to keep everybody. It's just the business of what it is, but you still put together a roster that got to a conference final. So congrats to you and good luck this offseason. Really do appreciate your time.
Well, thank you. That's kind of you. I had a good time. Have fun.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it. Enjoy your summer, and what's going to be a busy summer for Eric Tulsky.
Yeah.
Again, that's Canes general manager Eric Tulsky joining us here on the Adam Gold Show.